Have you ever worked your hands raw for someone else's dream? Maybe you wake before sunrise to serve others while your own hopes gather dust. Maybe you count coins at night, wondering if this is all life has for you. Day after day, year after year, the same floor to sweep, the same orders to obey, the same empty feeling when you look in the mirror. You give everything, you receive almost nothing, and somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice asks, "Will I ever matter?" Here's what you need to know. Your current position does not define your destiny. This is the story of a servant who failed 3 times trying to change his life, but his greatest failure became the doorway to everything, and it started with something as simple as a single grain of rice. It's not your fault you feel stuck. You show up, you work hard, you follow the rules, yet others leap ahead while you remain in place. This feeling is real, and you are not alone. Millions live this quiet struggle every day. But what if I told you that your position at the bottom holds a secret advantage, that those who serve see what those in power cannot? This story begins in a small riverside town in ancient China. A young man named Chen worked as a servant in the household of Master Lin, the wealthiest rice merchant. Chen was 22 years old. He slept on a thin mat in the storage room beside sacks of rice. He ate the leftover grains others ignored. He wore patched clothes while polishing his master's silk robes. Every morning he watched merchants arrive in fine carriages. Every evening he swept floors while listening to business deals he could never join. Just like you, Chen believed his value was measured by his position. Just like you, he tried to climb out of poverty through effort alone. He would fail. 3 times he would fall harder than before. But little did Chen know, his 3rd failure would reveal the merchant's greatest secret, and it would change everything. Chen's days began at 3:30 a.m. Before the sun touched the river, he rose to light the household lamps. His hands were cracked from cold water and rough rice sacks. His back ached from bending to sweep floors others walked upon without seeing him. He earned 3 copper coins each week, just enough to buy plain rice and dried vegetables, not enough to visit his aging parents in the next village, not enough to dream of marriage, not enough to feel human. At night, he lay on his mat listening to rats scurry through rice stores. He counted his coins by moonlight. 3, always 3, while Master Lin counted silver bars in the main house. Chen's greatest pain was not poverty, it was invisibility. Merchants stepped around him as if he were furniture. Servants from wealthier homes mocked his patched sleeves. Even children threw pebbles at his back when he carried water from the well. He tried to improve his situation. First, he worked faster. He swept twice as many rooms. He carried double the water buckets. But speed brought mistakes. He broke a porcelain vase while rushing. Master Lin deducted 1 week's wages. His savings vanished in a moment. Second, he tried learning merchant skills. He stayed late to watch grain inspections. He memorized prices shouted in the courtyard. One afternoon, he approached Master Lin with a suggestion about moisture levels in the eastern warehouse. The merchant did not look up from his ledger. "Servants carry rice," he said coldly. "Merchants decide its value. Know your place." Chen's face burned with shame. He returned to sweeping, his hope crushed. Third, he tried saving secretly. For 2 months, he hid 1 copper coin each week beneath a floorboard. He dreamed of buying a small plot of land. But during monsoon season, floodwaters seeped under the house. When he checked his hiding place, the coins had rusted into green lumps, worthless. That night, Chen sat by the riverbank watching his reflection ripple in dark water. 3 failures, 3 proofs he was meant to remain small. He whispered to the flowing water, "Maybe this is my destiny, to serve until my hands can no longer hold a broom, then disappear like yesterday's dust."
He felt the weight of generations before him, farmers, laborers, servants, all born poor, dying poor. No legacy, no memory, just empty space where a life had been. At last, he almost walked into the river that night, not to end his life, but to wash away the shame of being nothing. As he knelt at the water's edge, something caught his eye. A single grain of rice floated past, perfect, untouched, while everything around it swirled in chaos. And for the first time, Chen truly saw it. That single grain changed everything. While Chen watched, the grain did not sink. It did not break apart. It rode the current with quiet dignity, turning slowly as if studying the world passing by. Other debris, twigs, leaves, mud, rushed downstream in panic, but this grain moved with purpose. Chen reached into the water and rescued it. He held it on his palm beneath moonlight, perfectly formed, golden in the pale light. He realized something profound. In the merchant's warehouse, thousands of grains looked identical, but this one grain possessed a quality others lacked: integrity. It held its form while chaos surrounded it. The next morning, Chen entered the rice warehouse not as a servant performing duty, but as a student seeking wisdom. He stopped rushing. He stopped counting hours until freedom. Instead, he began observing, truly observing. He noticed what others missed: how humidity from the river affected grains near the south wall, how rats avoided certain sacks not because of traps, but because those grains came from mountain fields with natural pest resistance, how Master Lin never inspected the finest rice himself. He trusted his foreman, but the foreman judged quality by color alone, missing subtle signs of moisture damage invisible to untrained eyes. Chen discovered the merchant's greatest secret was not a hidden ledger or secret formula. It was this: most people see rice as a commodity, but rice carries memory. Memory of the soil that grew it, the rain that nourished it, the hands that harvested it, the journey that brought it here. And only someone who observed deeply, patiently, could read that memory. This was not magic, it was attention. It was the courage to see what everyone else overlooked because they were too busy chasing profit. At first, Chen did not believe this observation could change his life. How could noticing details make him rich? How could patience feed his parents? But he remembered the single grain on the river. It did not fight the current, it moved with wisdom. So Chen made a decision. He would master one thing completely: not wealth, not status, but understanding rice. He began arriving 1 hour earlier each day, not to work faster, but to sit quietly among the sacks. He learned to identify 27 varieties by scent alone. He discovered that pressing a grain between thumb and forefinger revealed moisture content better than any merchant's tool. He noticed that grains harvested under a full moon stored longer without spoilage, a secret farmers whispered but merchants ignored. His first attempt at applying this knowledge came during the autumn inspection. The foreman declared a shipment of premium white rice acceptable, but Chen smelled something others missed: a faint mustiness beneath the surface fragrance. He approached Master Lin, trembling. "Honorable merchant, the eastern shipment, it will spoil within 30 days. The merchant frowned. The foreman approved it. "The foreman saw color," Chen said softly. "I felt the grain's memory. It crossed the southern river during heavy rain. The moisture hides deep inside." Master Lin stared at the humble servant. Then he ordered the sacks opened. Deep within, grains showed early signs of mold. The entire shipment would have ruined his reputation. That day, Master Lin did not reward Chen with coins. He gave him something more valuable: a single question. "How did you know?"
Master Lin's question changed nothing overnight. Chen remained a servant sleeping on a mat, but now he carried a secret purpose. Day one of his new path began with doubt. What if the merchant's question meant nothing? What if tomorrow he would return to sweeping floors like always? Chen almost abandoned his observations, but he remembered the river grain. He chose to continue. Day 7 brought his first test. A new shipment arrived from distant provinces. Chen spent his lunch hour examining samples. He detected subtle differences in grain length, indicating mixed harvests, some early, some late. Early harvest grains lacked full nutrition. Late harvest grains risked frost damage. He approached Master Lin during tea. The merchant listened silently, then dismissed him. Interesting observation, but merchants buy in bulk. Small differences matter little. Chen's heart sank. His knowledge meant nothing. That evening, he almost quit. Why see deeply when no one values your sight? But on day 15, something unexpected happened. A wealthy buyer arrived to purchase rice for the imperial palace. Only perfect grains would be accepted. The foreman prepared the usual premium shipment, but Chen noticed a problem others missed. The grains looked perfect, but their uniform color came from polishing, not natural quality. Palace inspectors would detect the deception. Chen hesitated. Speaking up meant risking his position again. Silence meant watching his master lose the most important contract of the year. He chose truth. He pulled Master Lin aside and whispered his concern. The merchant's face darkened with anger, but he ordered a second inspection. Chen was right. The shipment would have been rejected. The palace contract was saved. Yet Master Lin gave no praise, no promotion, only a quiet nod before returning to his ledgers. Day 30 tested Chen's spirit deeply. Monsoon rains flooded the lower warehouse. Servants scrambled to move sacks to higher ground. In the chaos, Chen noticed something critical. Sacks marked premium were being stacked atop sacks marked standard. Moisture would seep downward, ruining the valuable rice beneath. He shouted a warning. The foreman ignored him. "Let the servant worry about rice," he laughed. "We save the house first." Chen faced an impossible choice. Obey orders and watch thousands of coins in rice spoil, or disobey and risk punishment. He chose the rice. While others saved furniture, Chen single-handedly reorganized the stacks. He worked until his hands bled. He moved 87 heavy sacks alone through rising water. When Master Lin discovered him hours later, soaked, bleeding, surrounded by perfectly stacked rice, the merchant said nothing. He simply studied the arrangement, then walked away. Chen expected dismissal the next morning. Instead, he received the same 3 copper coins, the same thin mat, the same invisibility. Day 47 brought his darkest moment. A rival merchant spread rumors that Master Lin's rice caused illness. Buyers disappeared. Warehouse shelves filled while coins emptied. The household faced ruin. One night, Chen overheard the merchant weeping in his study, a sound no servant should ever hear. Powerless, Chen returned to his mat. For the first time, his observations felt meaningless. What good was understanding rice when the business itself was dying? He almost packed his few belongings and left at dawn. But as he rose to go, he noticed something on his floor mat. A few grains of rice had spilled from his pocket days earlier, forgotten, yet they remained perfect, untouched by despair. In that moment, Chen understood the final piece of the merchant's secret. Rice does not fear flood or drought. It simply holds its essence until conditions allow growth. His purpose was not to fix the business overnight. It was to hold his integrity until the right moment arrived. Day 63 changed everything. Chen noticed palace inspectors visiting rival merchants. He realized the imperial kitchen sought a new supplier after the illness rumors. But the rumors were false. They came from competitors. Chen spent 3 sleepless nights studying every grain in Master Lin's warehouse. He selected exactly 100 grains representing the merchant's finest quality, not from one sack, but from 7 different harvests across 3 provinces. He arranged them in a small wooden box according to subtle variations in color and size, creating a visual map of the merchant's entire operation. At dawn, he placed the box outside Master Lin's door with a single note: "The truth has memory. Let the grains speak for themselves." He did not wait for thanks. He returned to sweeping floors, expecting nothing. Hours passed. Then Master Lin emerged from his study. His eyes were red from reading reports all night, but now they held something new: recognition. He found Chen in the courtyard. "Come with me," he said. Not an order, an invitation. They walked to the palace together. Chen said nothing as inspectors examined his grain arrangement. He let the rice speak. The head inspector spent 20 minutes studying the box. Then he looked at Master Lin. "Your servant arranged this?" The merchant nodded. The inspector smiled. "This man sees what emperors pay fortunes to understand. We will take all your rice, and we request he personally oversees every shipment." But the real test was still coming. Because true inheritance is not about receiving wealth, it is about proving you understand its meaning. The palace contract saved Master Lin's business. Coins flowed back into the household. New warehouses were built. Merchants who once ignored the rice merchant now sought his counsel. But the breakthrough was not financial. It came 3 months later on a cold winter morning. Master Lin summoned Chen to his private study, the room no servant had ever entered. Firelight danced across ledgers filled with decades of transactions. The merchant looked older than his years. He gestured to a cushion opposite his desk. "Sit," he said. "Not servant, not boy, just sit." Chen's hands trembled as he knelt. Master Lin studied him silently for a full minute, then spoke words that would reshape both their lives. "For 40 years, I believed wealth came from deals, from connections, from knowing men's weaknesses." He paused, gazing into the fire. "You taught me I was wrong. Wealth comes from understanding truth, and you see truth where I see only profit." The merchant revealed his secret burden. He had no sons. His daughter lived far away with her husband's family. His nephews cared only for spending his wealth, not growing it with wisdom. For years he searched for an heir who would honor the legacy he built grain by grain. He found no merchant worthy, but he found a servant with merchant's eyes. "You failed 3 times trying to become rich," he said softly. "But in failing, you discovered what no rich man knows, that value hides in plain sight, that patience outlasts ambition, that a single grain of integrity matters more than mountains of gold." He slid a document across the desk, the inheritance deed, naming Chen as heir to the entire business, not as a servant promoted, but as a son chosen. Chen could not speak. Tears fell on the wooden floor between them, not tears of joy, but of release. The weight of invisibility lifted in that moment. Master Lin placed a hand on his shoulder, the first human touch Chen had felt in years that did not demand labor. "You did not inherit my wealth," the merchant said. "You earned the right to grow it, because you see the soul inside every grain." The transformation was immediate yet gentle. Chen moved from the storage room to a small chamber beside the study. He still rose before dawn, but now he inspected rice not as a servant obeying orders, but as a guardian protecting truth. Within 6 months, his observations increased profits by 40%, not through new deals, but through preventing waste others never noticed. Within 1 year, merchants traveled from distant provinces just to learn from the servant who sees like a mountain. But the true breakthrough was internal. Chen no longer counted coins at night. He studied ledgers not for numbers, but for stories each transaction told about soil, weather, and human need. He visited his parents not with silver bars, but with fine rice and the quiet dignity of a man who knew his worth. When villagers who once mocked him now bowed in respect, he would lift them gently. "We all carry grain inside
Us, he would say. Some days we are the husk. Some days we are the nourishment. What matters is staying whole through both." One evening, Master Lin watched Chen teach young apprentices how to press a grain between thumb and forefinger. The old merchant smiled. He saw not an heir receiving wealth, but wisdom finding its home. The river grain had finally reached still water, and in that stillness it would feed thousands. 5 years later, Chen stood where Master Lin once stood. The riverside warehouse had grown into the region's largest rice distribution center, but its heart remained unchanged. Every morning at dawn, Chen still walked among the sacks, not as inspection, but as meditation. He taught his own servants what he learned by the river. True wealth flows to those who serve with attention. His business thrived not through aggressive deals, but through reputation. Buyers knew Chen's rice carried no hidden flaws because the man who oversaw it understood that every grain held a promise to someone's family. He never forgot his 3 failures. In fact, he honored them. He kept the rusted copper coins from his flooded savings beneath his desk, not as shame, but as reminder. Failure was not his enemy. Rushing was. Trying to become rich before becoming wise. Chen often reflected on his journey during quiet evenings. People think inheritance means receiving money, he would tell new apprentices, but real inheritance is receiving understanding. Master Lin gave me his warehouses, but the river gave me the eyes to fill them with meaning. His transformation rippled outward. He built a school for servants' children, teaching them to read ledgers and observe nature equally. He established fair pricing during famines when other merchants raised costs. He never became the richest merchant in the province, but he became the most trusted. And in times of scarcity, trust fed more families than gold ever could. Chen's parents lived their final years in a small house overlooking rice fields. Not a palace, but a home filled with grandchildren and the scent of cooking grain. When travelers asked how a servant became an heir, Chen never mentioned luck or favor. He held out his palm with a single grain. "I learned to see what this holds," he said softly. "Not just food, but memory, patience, the journey from seed to harvest. When you honor that journey in small things, large things honor you in return." He never forgot sweeping floors. In fact, he swept the main courtyard himself every new moon, a practice that confused visitors but grounded his spirit. The broom teaches humility, the grain teaches wisdom. A man who holds both never loses his way. His story spread not through boasts but through results. Villages fed, families sustained. A business that survived droughts and floods because its leader understood that true stability comes not from controlling circumstances, but from holding integrity within them. Chen's greatest achievement was invisible. He transformed the meaning of heir itself. Not someone born into position, but someone who earns legacy through attention, through seeing what others miss, through remaining whole while the world swirls in chaos, just like that single grain on the river. Now here's what this means for you. You may not work with rice, you may not serve a merchant, but you stand where Chen stood, invisible, undervalued, trying harder while getting nowhere. Your 3 failures are not proof you should quit, they are preparation for your discovery. Chen's breakthrough came not when he tried to become the merchant, but when he mastered seeing like one while remaining a servant.
Your position right now holds the same advantage. You see details leaders miss because they're too busy leading. You understand struggles customers face because you live them. You notice patterns others overlook because you have time to observe. Starting tomorrow, choose one small thing in your work and observe it deeply. Not to impress anyone, not to get promoted, but to understand its truth. The cashier who studies why certain products sell better on rainy days. The delivery driver who notices which neighborhoods tip generously and why. The office assistant who sees how team morale shifts after different meetings. This is not about working harder. It is about seeing deeper. Your failures aren't the end of your story.
They are the river testing your grain. Will you break apart in the current, or will you hold your form until still water arrives? Every day you wait is a day lost, but also a day you can reclaim with one choice: to observe instead of rush, to understand instead of demand, to serve with attention instead of resentment. Choose one thing, just one. Study it for 30 days. Notice what others miss. Document small patterns. Your discovery may not come on day 1 or day 15, but on day 27 or 43, something will shift. Not because you chased success, but because you honored truth in small things. Your story isn't over. This is just the beginning. The world has enough people chasing positions. It needs more people who see deeply from where they stand. Your current place is not your permanent address. It is your classroom, and the lesson waiting there might just make you heir to everything that matters. Stay for more stories that might change your perspective, because sometimes the smallest grain holds the largest truth.